Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many incredible people across the state of Mississippi. And if you're a regular listener to SuperTalk Mississippi, you know Mornings with Richard Cross. He has done such a great job of sort of taking the reins with the passing of our friend Paul Gallo. And you think about what he's doing to contribute toward sort of blending local and state news and politics and business and sports commentary all kind of together to create such an interesting show. He likes to dive deep, and he does his homework, and that's very impressive. I enjoy, in particular, being on his show from time to time, talking about some of the columns that I've been writing recently. And he's also a big contributor to Sports Talk Mississippi still. So without any further ado, let's bring my friend Richard Cross into the conversation. And first of all, just say, how you doing, my friend?
Very kind words, Ricky. Thanks for having me. Always enjoy the visits, the conversations. Life's good. Getting ready for Thanksgiving. Got a big crew coming to the house, and pretty significant to-do list, honey-do list between now and, next Wednesday or Thursday morning, but exciting time of the year.
Well, you know, when you look at news, man, you can go to, like, for people who want state news, they can certainly go to supertalk.fm or download the SuperTalk Mississippi app and get what this news team is doing, gathering the important news from across the state that we all want to read about. Certainly, there's a lot to talk about there. You think about what's happening in the national political realm. There's plenty to talk about there. To be honest with you, with each passing day, there's even more to talk about because it's just a crazy world we live in these days. But I don't think anything's more crazy these days, at least in terms of people's interest in Mississippi. If you go to Twitter, Lane Kiffin is something that's up there a lot. There's a lot of posts on Twitter. He is he's kind of if you just go to sports, you know, he's trending continuously. He seems to be enjoying it. What's your read on that?
He may be. I don't think Ole Miss fans are. I'm not sure that the Ole Miss administration is, and I don't know that the fan bases of some of the other schools that are involved in this are having much fun, unless you're some sort of a sadist. I don't know that Lane Kiffin deep down is enjoying it. I think he is continuing to be himself. He is an online extrovert and more of an in-person introvert, pretty private when it's, you know, kind of more one-on-one or in small group settings. The thing that is undeniable about Lane Kiffin, and it's the reason that he is the topic of conversation in Oxford and all over Mississippi and in Gainesville and across Florida and in Baton Rouge and the entire state of Louisiana and the Southeast and the nation in terms of people that follow college football, is because he is, in my opinion, the single most brilliant mind in all of college football from an offensive standpoint. I know Charlie Weiss Jr. is his offensive coordinator, but Lane plays a big role in building out the game plan. And then on game day, from his perch on the sideline, I probably shouldn't call it a perch. I mean, it's Charlie Weiss Jr. that's perched up above in the press box. But what Lane Kiffin sees and what he has stored away in his mind based on preparation and building of a game plan, I think is unlike anybody else. You've seen it before. He's watching the play clock go down. There's a point in the play clock in which the helmet communication is turned off, where your coordinator can talk to the quarterback when it's offense. He likes when that goes off because that's the time also where the defensive coordinator can stop communicating with his middle linebacker and getting signals in, because at that point he knows the look they are going to get on a particular snap, and he knows what they've worked on. And when you see him purse his lips and hit that dog whistle, and you see Trinidad Chambliss's head turn to the sideways and get a signal, it's worth watching, because he has gotten a look that they have prepared for with a specific play or concept, and now they're going to try to exploit it. And there just aren't many people in college football that have the ability to do that in real time and get it in and see it work.
You know, listen, Jeff Duncan, who is a columnist, you know him at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We used to work together when I was a publisher at the Times-Picayune and president of NOLA Media Group. But more recently, he's on my show every single Friday. And he wrote the definitive book on Drew Brees and Sean Payton. He wrote the book on it. And what he said is you have to have a PhD to play in Sean Payton's offense, and Drew Brees had the PhD, because it requires a certain level of communication, awareness, reading the defense, and all of that. You think about Trinidad and how he and Lane Kiffin, in a relatively short period of time, have established the ability to just have their own PhD in this offense and have success around it. That has been something to watch, man, because if you think about the conditions that led to Trinidad even coming in to begin with, that's a real testament not only to Lane Kiffin, but it's a real testament to Trinidad as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a really good head on the shoulders of Trinidad Chambliss, and I think that's multifaceted. It's in his understanding of football, it's in his understanding of offense, period, and then it's his understanding of what Ole Miss is trying to accomplish within different concepts based on what schemes you're looking at from the defensive perspective. But I think the other piece of good head on his shoulders is the way in which he has been able to connect with teammates in a short period of time. I mean, there was no question Austin Simmons was the leader. This was his football team coming into the season as the starting quarterback, and had in some ways kind of been anointed to that spot, but it also had proven it when he had chances, limited as they may have been. He has the injury. Trinidad comes in. He's fine against Kentucky at the end of that game. And then he gets a start and he's pretty good. And he gets another start and he's really good. And then he starts against LSU and he plays exceptionally well and beats the Tigers. And the question of, well, what are you going to do when Austin Simmons gets healthy goes away, because his actions on the field and the way his teammates gravitate to him and respond to him, it answered the question. It wasn't something where you had to, I'm sure internally they had to deal with it and had to talk with Austin Simmons about it. But in terms of external, the question just went away, not because it got a verbal answer, but because you got an answer with what you were watching on the field.
It's been great to watch, man. I mean, I was taught, as I think I may have said to you a long time ago, I'm a Southern Miss fan. I was taught to hate Ole Miss. And even when my son was going to law school up there and we went to games, it was hard. It was hard for us because it was in our DNA. I love Ole Miss today. I love watching Ole Miss. I love watching all of the fodder around Ole Miss. Watching, these I don't enjoy watching the drama these days because I want Lane Kiffin to stay in Oxford. And listen, I went back and listened to the Theo Vaughn conversation with Lane Kiffin again for the second time. I listened to it when it first came out, but now I've listened to it again since all this has happened. And it's a really fascinating conversation. I'm assuming you probably saw it along the way. It's fascinating because he gets into a lot about what Oxford means to him, his personal issues he was having. I mean, he was the mad scientist all along throughout his whole career, but he was making sort of self-defeating decisions, and he was struggling in that regard. He was having a hard time finding balance in his life with his family and all of that. He gets into a lot of what Oxford means to him, slowing him down, teaching him to find balance in his life and all of that. And I just wonder if he has it in him to leave now that he's found that. It will be very interesting because I think that's the dimension that Ole Miss brings. He's not going to get in Baton Rouge or Gainesville. I just don't think he's going to get it. But do you have a point of view about that?
Well, I certainly don't know what's going on inside Lane Kiffin's head, and I'm convinced that anybody at this point in the process who tells you definitively this is what he's going to do, the thing that I've said over and over is either they are intentionally lying to you, they have been lied to, or they've just made something up out of thin air, because by all accounts and everybody that I've talked to, he genuinely doesn't yet know what he's going to do. I don't know what's going on in his mind. I would say that Lane Kiffin, the person, and this is not because I know him well, but I've been around him and kind of observed him and listened to him and watched press conferences and know people that do know him. I think he is a complex person. I talked about the difference in his kind of online persona and who he is, without an X profile or an Instagram profile. That's two different people. He's a funny guy. He's a witty guy. There's a dry sense of humor there, but he's not like ha ha laugh out loud funny guy. We talked about the mastermind that he is as it pertains to football. And yet you look and you go, well, he's had some struggles in relationships. Whether those are friendships or dating relationships or marriage relationships or kid relationships. And it appears as if he's worked very, very hard to mend some of those relationships and try to be a better dad and a better friend and, just a better coach. But the drive and the competitive spirit to those have not waned at all. I don't think that's gone away. So he is a fascinating individual that is an outstanding football coach. And there's no question has been incredible for Ole Miss. But I think you have to remember that Ole Miss has also been incredible for Lane Kiffin.
It really has. And that's kind of the point that I was making. When we come back after this break, I want to just share a couple of excerpts from the Pivot Year book that he has been posting from, because I think he wants people, he's having fun, at least the posting of these things, because he's wanting people to try to read between the lines. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We have Richard Cross from Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, and also a big time contributor to Sports Talk Mississippi, where he really kind of made his name. And he's a sports expert. And I think I said this to you before, Richard, but when in the newsrooms that I had responsibility for throughout my career, the smartest people in the room were usually on the sports staff. They just knew stats. They knew, they're smart people. And, the sports minds tend to go off and do really amazing things. And so your ascension at SuperTalk is not a big surprise to me at all. You're an incredibly talented guy. When we were talking about Lane Kiffin, you're welcome. One of the things that we all know, and you mentioned it, that he's kind of mastered how to use technology today. And one of the things he pointed out in that conversation with Theo Vaughn was that when he's recruiting someone today, even though he's troubled and understands it, but still it is different. Recruiting is different today in the time where money is such a big part of the conversation. Oftentimes the family members already know him. They follow him on social media. They feel like they have a good awareness of him based on his social demeanor, et cetera. One of the things he's been doing is been posting from this book, The Pivot Year, 365 days to become the person you truly want to be. And he posted a bunch of stuff. The most recent one, this is just today, actually. He posted some of the very parts of your life begin to flow right after you give up. After you give up on trying to be someone you're not and placing other people's opinions higher than yourself. And he goes on from there. He wants to plant these seeds where people are reading in between the lines and trying to make the best of it. Someone in response to that wrote, "Coming soon, the Bachelor head coach edition," kind of making fun of and it shows Lane Kiffin holding a rose. Another person said, "Go on without me, guys. I don't think I have another Lane Kiffin watch day in me." But that kind of expresses what a lot of people are feeling right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And, maybe it is intentional that he's putting some of those things online, to your point, and, using that as an outlet. Or maybe it's coincidence also that just happens to be the page of the book that he is in. I haven't looked to see what page of the book it was to coincide with what day it is on the calendar right now. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe there's picking and choosing there. I've seen some people talk about that fact that is a good book and has been helpful for a lot of people. I think George Raveling was involved with it, the former college basketball coach and shoe company executive. And you may be, Ricky, you may be 100% right on that. You may be. I don't think I've gotten there where and maybe it's for my own sanity. Where I'm trying to read and glean and understand something from every single thing he posts online, because I'm not convinced that everything he puts online has a reason. I think some of it is troll related. Some of it is, entertains himself related, that there may be a lot going on there. And I just don't know exactly what it is. And I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ready to make that leap and say, oh, yeah, this is what he's telling us by, this picture from a book that he read. But maybe I'm completely off base on that.
Well, like I told you during the break, I hate to say it, but if I were a betting man, I'd say that he's probably leaving. And maybe you're right. He doesn't really do it for a reason, but something subconsciously is happening. Because when you study Lane Kiffin, as you pointed out, he's a complex guy. There are a lot of mad scientists, that are extraordinarily good at something, one thing. I think of Elon Musk, for example. But that kind of a mess in other parts of their lives. And he's coming to grips with those other parts of his life, but he's not entirely there yet. And he's looking for something. And he's been willing to leave multiple times. Sometimes he was fired. But he talks about this kind of methodical process he's going through today to be a better person. But he's still searching. And that search will maybe make him leave. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong that my read on it that he will leave, but because we need
you're just a whole lot smarter than I am, Ricky. I think my brain is too simple to kind of look at it from that standpoint. I mean,
yeah,
I think it honestly comes down to where Lane Kiffin thinks he has the best chance to consistently compete for a national championship, and I think that is what it is that makes LSU or Florida intriguing to him. But the most fascinating part of it is what he is, if that is indeed what he's searching for, and thinks that opportunity exists there. He's got to go build that in those places in the way that he has already built it in Oxford.
Yeah.
LSU's going to be watching the playoff on television. Florida's going to be watching the playoff on television. Ole Miss is going to be in it.
When I was in New Orleans and we were having editorial boards with governors and the chancellor of LSU, et cetera, I remember the revelation I had. I understood it before I went. I understood it before we had these meetings, that LSU was the boss hog in the state of Louisiana. It wasn't like you were splitting between these different passions like in Mississippi State or Ole Miss, or maybe even add in Southern Miss to some extent. But LSU was the boss hog. They didn't have a college board like we have here. They had a board of trustees only responsible for LSU. And you saw how the governor, got involved. The power structure in Louisiana is very unique. And I'm not sure that I would want to go into that. I mean, we don't even know who the new chancellor is. It's a work in progress. Florida, on the other hand, it's got its challenges too. That might play to our benefit. Oxford is something, Ole Miss is something, the players, the situation, and maybe he can thrive there. Maybe he will thrive there. Listen, he may win the national championship this year. Who knows, man? I hope that happens. And then the question of can you win a national championship at Ole Miss kind of goes away. Hey, let's shift gears real quick. We got about 4 minutes left, but I had a fascinating conversation with Ashley Edwards, who used to be the CEO of the Coast Business Council recently. And he did the first TEDx ever at Southern Miss, and he did it on the blue economy. And it wasn't, the blue economy is important. It's all these industries and the economy that's attached to the Gulf of America. But we ended up getting into a conversation about the disruptive nature of technology, the massive impact that AI is going to have on jobs in Mississippi, and it brings really crystal clear clarity to what the governor's been doing to bring more and better advanced manufacturing into Mississippi. We need more jobs here because we're going to be losing some jobs to AI, and we better be focused on it because it's here right now. It's not something that's going to happen on the horizon. It's happening literally as we speak. And I hope Mississippi's up to this. Is this something you've been thinking about?
Yeah, I think to some degree, it's very clear that AI, artificial intelligence, has it's kind of embedded itself in every single industry that is out there. And I mean, you think about the the trades that go into the shipbuilding industry, for example, and you think about electricians and you think about plumbers and welders and people that build things with their hands. And I'm not convinced that those jobs are going away, but all you've got to do, to your point, is look at advanced manufacturing facilities, and you will see that there is technology that is driving much of the stuff that used to be handled by human hands. So it's evolving, and I do think that the governor's office and Accelerate Mississippi and Mississippi Business Council and a bunch of these entities together recognize that, because I feel like what they are pushing is kind of multifaceted, right? I mean, they are pushing people that, hey, there are jobs that are available right now. We have a shortage of electricians. We have a shortage of plumbers. We have a shortage of construction workers, and we've got to get people in those jobs because we need them right now. When you talk about bringing in data center projects, somebody's got to build those. You need HVAC technicians that know what the heck they're doing to get all of that installed. And so I don't think that's going away entirely. But the other piece of it that they're pushing is the computer science training and coding and understanding how to leverage AI within different business models, because you still have to have a person that puts in a lot of the data and tells AI, this is what I need for you to do for me, so that the computer can then tell the robot how to weld and what to weld. I don't think we're ever going to completely get to a spot where it's hands off, no humans, or at least, again, maybe I'm not smart enough to, I don't think I can make the synapses fire and connect on that thought, at least not quite yet.
Well, it will be interesting, and what I'll be talking more about as we go forward is if we had a 30% impact, let's say it was 30% impact on jobs in Mississippi, that would be a really big impact. And that means we better be focused on diversifying our economy and, keep our foot on the pedal to the current efforts of MDA and the governor and other entities across the state to really push hard to bring more jobs in here and focus on advanced manufacturing at the highest level. Anyway, we'll continue those conversations in the future. Sure. I appreciate you being a part of today's show with me, Richard.
Thanks, Ricky. I appreciate it. Always good to visit with you.
You bet. Richard Cross from Mornings with Richard Cross. Have a great day, Richard. We'll see you after this break with more. We'll see you after this.